I thought one of the great scenes was how you saw Vance and Vladimir Zelenskyy sitting down together, because the Pope kind of made them do it.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with senior columnist Tim Carney. And Tim, we are about, how long is it been? A week? a month since the coronation? Election?
The election of Pope Leo.
Of Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope. What is the significance, first, of him being the first American Pope with the benefit of a few weeks of sort of taking stock of that?
Well, he's an American Pope who has been described as the least American of the Americans. That is, he was born right outside of Chicago, but most of his adult life has been either in Rome or in Peru, where he was a bishop. And so it's very interesting because Pope Francis very much did not speak a language that the Americans understood. I'm talking not just the Italian and the Spanish, but just the way he would talk about capitalism, the way he would talk about modernity. None of this resonated with Americans. And Pope Leo is able to speak about things in ways that Americans understand. So I do think that for the American Catholic Church especially, I mean, it's wild watching a guy speak in unaccented English as the Pope, but also on issues that are really in our politics, the church will be able to address them in a more coherent way.
Now, I was just speaking with you before we started recording about how on my Twitter there's a sort of battle of those of us who are not properly catechized about how Leo XIV selecting his name, being the successor to Leo XIII, suggests he's maybe kind of a base pope, like super conservative, and others who say, he is an advocate for social justice.
Yeah.
What should we expect because of the name choice?
Social justice, as a term used in the U.S. in the last 30 years, has meant like Marxism or something like that. But that's not a good understanding of what Pope Leo XIII. He was a pope near the end of the 19th century, and what he was addressing was the rise of Marxism, but also that Marxism was a response to the Industrial Revolution and the modern forms of capitalism. And so he wrote a very important document called Rerum Novarum, which basically means like about the new things going on, which was industry and socialism. And he was like, you know what, socialism doesn't address what humans need and want, and capitalism, industrial capitalism, runs the risk of reducing humans down to like just machine parts, like factory parts. And so if you got to read the Rerum Novarum, this will be part of your catechesis. It's
poolside reading.
It's not woke. It's not Marxist. It does reject sort of an idea that like you should just get as much out of your workers as you possibly can and not care about them. But on the other hand, it thoroughly rejects Marxism, and it rejects both of those views for the same reason. So again, this is a way that the church sees things a little bit differently than American politics.
Now, it's interesting that the new Pope has already had an audience with Vice President JD Vance, who is a later-in-life Catholic convert, like the cool side of Catholicism revival in America is sort of embodied like you. Yeah. And so what do you think the significance is of, there's already talk about, Russia and Ukraine negotiating their peace process in the Vatican, and Pope Leo XIV sort of positioning himself to talk about global migration and stuff like that. I mean, do you think that he will play sort of a greater role in geopolitics?
I thought one of the great scenes was how you saw Vance and Vladimir Zelenskyy sitting down together, because the Pope kind of made them do it. and this is the proper role of the Pope and the Vatican. The Vatican is not an expert in, how to make peace between warring parties, but it can play a role as a neutral arbiter, as, a bringer of peace. This is what, Jesus was all about, was peace. And that it can play a role of making people sit down and talk to one another. I have no idea what a peace process in Ukraine is going to look like, but the sort of strife between Vance and Zelenskyy, the Pope was like, you know what, JD, you got to sit down and talk to this guy.
Work it out, kids.
And he did. And that work it out, kids, that's the role that hopefully Leo XIV will play.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Tim and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.